very excited to introduce our next speaker, Andrea Lopez. I personally met Andrea at Bright Ideas Hackathon as a volunteer. It is wonderful to see you again, Andrea. I can't see you right now, but hopefully behind that screen, you're right there. Um, she is a brand category and marketing strategist at Target Corporation, and we're so lucky to have you here today. So whenever you're ready, please give it a go.
Hi, you guys. It's so nice to meet you, and thank you so much for that great intro. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I just created a quick little deck to kind of guide this conversation along. All right. Perfect. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so yes, my name is Andrea Lopez, and I am a brand and category marketing manager at Target at the moment. About me slash quién soy, who am I? So I'm actually a Spanish Colombian American. My dad is from Spain, my mom is from Colombia, and I was born here in the United States, not being a first generation American with my brother. And I think that this is really important to me and my story because I was really built on this fusion of cultures with different values, and I've just kind of taken um, pillars and sayings and values from each of these three different cultures to become who I am. And I mean, this is always constantly evolving, but it's central to who I am. And then another fun fact about me is that I'm actually also a dance fitness instructor. So I grew up dancing ballet semi professionally. So I was doing ballet, point, jazz, tap, modern, contemporary, hip hop, flamenco, you named it. Like I probably dabbled it in a little bit. And as I progressed throughout my life, I couldn't keep up with that level of dance as I focused really professionally on my career. And so I transferred to then taking that passion and turning it into becoming a dance fitness instructor. So I'm also a Zumba instructor, which is really fun. Okay, so maybe you guys have seen the meme of like how it started and how it's going. So I thought I'd just kind of take that similar approach here. So I actually, after high school and after I was like wrapping up this very serious pathway that I had with the dance world, I decided to double major in marketing and advertising at the University of Texas at Austin. So they have one of the top business schools throughout the nation, as well as the number one advertising school within the nation. So I thought I needed to take advantage of both of those programs in order to get a really holistic understanding of the marketing and advertising industry and world. And after that, well, throughout that journey, I actually was a member of multiple different organizations. I took leadership positions. I started my own org actually at that university. And that's also where I began my Zumba instruction career. But then I also did a lot of internships. So I started off working at at a Hispanic advertising agency, working on Spanish language and English language advertising for the Latin American population here in the United States. After that, I then worked as a creative strategist in New York City, really taking a deeper dive into cultural tailwinds that are happening amongst consumers, amongst everyday individuals to really understand what's happening at that macro level that I can then boil down to the micro to more effectively connect a brand to its market. And then after that, I actually interned at Target. And well, long story short, I then got a full time offer to come back, and I've been at Target for about 2.5 years or so. And I first started my career as at Target as a store experience marketing planner. And now I'm currently a brand and category marketing strategist at Target. So how it started, how it's going again at Target. So maybe you've seen this image that was actually shared um, in multiple media outlets. I actually was the lead behind this signage that you see here in store. So my role as a store experience marketing planner, I would be the person that's in charge of creating that setting within the kids, boy, girl, newborn infant, toddler, as well as baby settings. So, whenever you walk into a store, what is your experience as a consumer? I worked with a large cross functional team in order to intentionally navigate you throughout that store experience, really basing you on three key pillars of ease, inspiration, and value to make sure you could clearly understand what you're getting for and the product benefit associated to that price point. So I was really passionate about creating inclusive store environments for all. And so we really leaned into the Cat and Jack own brand label here to make sure, which already has adaptive clothing, so it's central to that brand, and made sure that that story was visibly being shown on key real estate throughout the store experience. And I was also in charge and on the lead for the integration of holiday into the store experience as well to make it feel like the seasonality is actually coming through. So after about a little under 2 years on that team, I absolutely loved being a part of truly what makes a target destination. And then I switched over, however, to now being a driver. I did miss that kind of personal connection, that storytelling that came with more traditional marketing and advertising. And so, luckily, there was an opening. I applied, and they hired me to join the branding category marketing team, specifically working on baby and beauty. And so this year, one of the things that I'm most proud of that I was able to accomplish was really to evolve to the digital landscape through of that we've all been experiencing right through COVID-19. And I actually was the lead for one of the first virtual experiential activations that Target Marketing has been a part of. So traditionally, we would have had, as you see here, like a massive booth, and I actually was able to work with a team in partnership, holding hand in hand with like the festival itself, and to really identify like what is a virtual experiential event and how do we activate this to ensure we're still creating connection and meaning with our audience and guests. So, my experience working on and leading strategy for both target destinations and drivers, I think, really allowed me to think critically about how we connect with guests from end to end touch points across the target consumer journey. So, I'm really passionate about connection, around storytelling, around making people feel included, making them feel welcomed, inspired, bringing joy into their lives. And I think that really aligns very closely to Target as a brand, as an enterprise. And I'm also very passionate about diversity and inclusion initiatives. And I have found that this is central to the Target brand as well. So my own purpose has aligned very nicely to the Target brand, the Target culture, the Target purpose. And so it's made it very exciting for me to be a part of this enterprise and help drive the work forward to ultimately serve our guests in their times of need. And I think that the reason that I've been able to have so much success and I've been able to find so much meaning in my work is because I've been able to work so well with others and I've built very meaningful and deep relationships. We have this culture at Target of being one team and that you really need to lean on each other's expertise. You really need to ask questions. You need to be willing to collaborate and work through difficult situations with others. And the only way that you're really going to do that is through these meaningful relationships that you develop. So the advice that I have like on how you go about actually building these relationships is as the previous speaker also mentioned, is that networking is absolutely key. And I think that it can be scary potentially working at such a large enterprise. You're in a sea of some of the top professionals in a uh, Fortune 50 company. I think there's thousands and thousands of us, and you see them, especially being older, more tenured, more mature within their careers. And coming in, it can be a little bit intimidating when you're first launching your career. But I think that the key is to recognize and value their expertise, and also realize that you do have more in common with people than you think. And the key to doing that is just asking questions and getting to know them on a personal level. I found that as if you ask questions, people will respond and they love to talk about themselves, wanting to get to know you as well. But you have to be the first one to kind of break that bridge. You know what I mean? And then my next piece of advice is to truly be vulnerable. As I said just in my last piece of advice, questions are everything, but taking down this wall that you may have of, okay, I need to make sure that I'm 100% delivering and I was hired because I am super strategic. Like you are just beginning your career. You have so much room for growth, so much room for improvement. And the only way you can do that is by being vulnerable, letting the people around you really understand what your key opportunities are, what your growth opportunities are, and asking questions. The amount of things that I have discovered and found out as potentially even just business opportunities or like guest opportunities that need to be addressed by just asking questions. It's just been absolutely phenomenal. And then my last piece of advice is to make sure you're taking calculated risks within anything you do in life. Like you just need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, navigating kind of new territories. For example, creating a virtual experience and leading that for Target. That was very nerve wracking for me, but I just decided to keep my partners close, be very vulnerable with them, and really use everyone's thought leadership in order to pave this pathway together. And so, because of that, we were able to take that calculated risk. We did invest in this, and it was a wildly successful event and opportunity. So, just be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, when you're first starting off, one of the best pieces of advice that I also got was that your job is to make your manager or your director's life easier. And that seems kind of like a no brainer, but when I really understood their goals, what they wanted to accomplish, what their team's vision was. I think that really helped me understand the steps that I needed to take and the action that our total team needed to do in order to drive the work forward. And so that's been really wonderful as well. And finally, my life motto is 10% of life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react. So life, if we've learned anything from 2020, it is that it's super uncertain. We need to be patient. We need to be okay with being uncomfortable. And really, 90% of it is how you react. You might not be able to change that situation, but you can change your reaction and the steps and action that you are going to take in order to accomplish your goals or make your dreams happen. So, yeah, that is just the little piece of advice that I have for all of you, just kind of based off of my experience and my goals of becoming a marketing professional at a top 50 company, especially one like Target.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for your wonderful advice. It is absolutely wonderful and inspiring to hear. Something that really personally resonates with me is being vulnerable. If I'm being quite raw right now, I am super nervous. So please forgive me if I stumble. This is my very first time. So I also love how you incorporate your cultural background and feeling welcome, being inclusive. And especially during this pandemic, there's so much chaos and there's so much separation. So that emphasis of being inclusive, being welcoming, and having that connection is absolutely wonderful and refreshing to hear. I would love to see it and ask some questions that the audience has. Um, First question, what advice would you say to a person who wants to make a connection by their introvertness or shyness? So if someone's shy, how do they come out there and how do they be vulnerable and how do they make that connection?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say um, for you need to know who you are, what your strengths are. If you're an extrovert and you know that. If you're an introvert, that is 100% okay. I think we live in this world where being an extrovert is potentially rewarded at times, or you're the one um, uh, that gets that final say in the room at times. For me, like coming into Target, I was pretty introverted because in my culture, like Elizabeth, as you said, like we definitely respect hierarchies and just the
Mhm.
role of elders, etc. And so coming in and potentially challenging viewpoints or asking questions was really difficult for me. And then I just found my own ways of potentially following up after with that person individually. Like maybe speaking in a large room setting
Mhm.
wasn't the best. Maybe if I could just connect with them one on one and potentially start that conversation over email first, that was the key for me. And I would say that I actually like to call myself an introverted extrovert, and that has been the more that I have found confidence in who I am, the
Mhm.
more I've been able to just be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask these questions. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to um, be okay with whatever the person says. And at the end of the day, the worst thing anyone can ever tell you is no. And then, okay, no, sounds good. And then you're just going to have to move on. So, um, hopefully that helps. But once I wrapped my head around, 90% of is how you react. And the worst thing anyone can tell you is no, which is hopefully not earth shattering. That is really what helped me launch my career and kind of be more willing to be more vulnerable.
That's absolutely wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. Our next question is so what do you market for? Like, how do you approach marketing and how do you kind of start or begin?
Oh, yes. So that is, I think you could, I mean, I did a 4-year university
Mhm.
experience in this, but I think like what has been central to me in terms of marketing is being really guest centric, knowing who your consumer is, knowing what obstacles they're facing, knowing what solutions that they might need in your life, and from there creating very clear like business objectives, marketing objectives to deliver on these business opportunities as well as their guest opportunities and like consumer cultural nuance. Everything happens from the micro macro level, and then
Mhm.
the choices that you make narrow it down into a more micro level um, uh, business purpose, objective, etc. And then from there,
Mhm.
we what I do is write a brief. I kick it off to an advertising agency, whether that's internal or external, and
Mhm.
from there we go through multiple rounds of concepting. Depending on your deliverable for the store experience, it was physical 3D elements and structures. Now it's more of the digital drivers, etc. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andrea.